That's a good question.
That's a very interesting question. What do you mean? Where do we draw the line? Like, do we not kill bugs? Would I eat those? I would.
Well, I wouldn't eat them just because I'm not interested in eating them.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I would not want to eat them if there were other sources of plant-based sort of caloric intake available. My preference is not to kill an animal. I think that, let me just start by saying, I think already what is annoying about this issue is this ought to be a much larger group than it is. In my opinion, just my theory is, the reason this group isn't bigger than it is, and I'm just curious, just show of hands, who's already on my side on this group? See, that's what I thought.
Yeah, there are
See, people on the other side, with the exception of Andy Marcantel, who's got the balls to confront issues that he doesn't agree with, and I respect that. I think that libertarians at a libertarian conference don't want to be confronted with these issues because they're wimps in this area. They're wimps. They should come in here and say, you know what? I think that I can be a good libertarian while still supporting a frickin' Auschwitz for cows and pigs and chickens, and I'm a great man of peace. I want to hear that from a libertarian at this conference. I want to confront that libertarian, and I think that that's the discussion we need to be having, because what bothers me, and what did bother me as a total committed frickin' carnivore for at least 4 decades, I didn't miss one meal that didn't have some dead, rotting animal flesh on my plate. I never missed one meal, never, until the time I was 44 years old. But I had to confront this issue for myself. Can I, a guy that's been a proud libertarian for a long time, can I still say I'm a proud libertarian while I'm eating steak? That's the issue. Because can a libertarian eat steak and still be a libertarian? Because if not, I'm a shitty libertarian. And I don't want to be a shitty libertarian. So that's my take on it. So we got some questions.
All right, I'll chime in on the plants versus bivalves mollusk issue. And bugs. Number one, I'm not interested in eating bugs, but if I were, they fall into the category, do they have a brain? Yes. Do they have a heart? Yes. Do they have a nervous system? Yes. I wouldn't eat them on those grounds. Now, bivalves, oysters, mollusks, those sorts of things, I think it's murky, but generally we consider those animals. So I don't know all the science behind it, but what I do is I look to thought leaders in the field, and one that I follow is Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, and she does a fantastic podcast called Food for Thought about the ethics of eating animals and all sorts of aspects of it. And she says that she errs on the side of, no, she does not eat those animals because they're considered animals. So I would not eat them. And in fact, I have saved mosquitoes before. I would never thought I would save a mosquito, but a mosquito's flying around my bathroom. I don't want to be bitten by a mosquito, but I figured out, okay, I take a paper cup, take a piece of paper, get it up against the wall, slide it in, take it outside, and it works. I try as much as possible not to harm another living being. Did anyone else want to chime in on that? Okay.
I actually do.
Okay.
And I know there's more questions, but I have a different line. My line is capacity for empathy, right? So, and this is one of the reasons I'm still a pescatarian, also eat fish, that the line to me is moral agency, and moral agency stems from the capacity for empathy, the capacity for other beings. So dogs, cats, pigs, cows, horses, birds, all exhibit traits of empathy. I don't know of any empathetic traits I've ever for fish, except for octopus. The octopi are extremely intelligent, very clearly empathetic. Yeah, you give me a thumbs up. Yeah. I saw a video of an octopus under the water, and he had 2 coconut shell halves, and he was grabbing them and wrapping them around himself and rolling down a hill, and he got to the bottom, and then he'd grab them and he'd swim back up to the top, and I was like, oh my God, that octopus is playing. Yeah. I can't eat them anymore. They're off the menu. Wow. So I have a different line. So bugs would never bother me. But that's, these are where there's gray areas in a lot of this stuff, and you do have to pick your line. By the way, that also means I could probably eat most humans.
Especially Americans.
Let's go with the guy that's had his hand up the longest.
Can we get you guys reflections on the moral implications of animal testing for potentially life-saving treatments or cures, cancer research, is it ever justified?
I'll start over here, I guess. I personally would say no. I definitely have issue with the use of any other living creature to justify something for another species. Like Gina was talking earlier about speciesism and carnism and all the ideology behind that. I think sort of the mentality that we witness a lot in our society through testing on animals, through zoos, through using animals for entertainment is just that we're the top of the food chain, so it's somehow justified or okay for us to use the other creatures that exist here to whatever means we choose. I also think that, and I would have to do more research to give you some specifics, but I do think that with technology progressing the way it is, that it's more than likely that there's other methods for us to test out these cures or, also a lot of it's like cosmetics and different things where animals are tested on. There's got to be different ways for us to test out the safety and efficacy of these different drugs or whatever it is without abusing another living creature.
Yeah.
Are there alternatives? I guess it comes down to if you weigh a human life higher than another species life, and to me, I guess that's going to be an individual decision. But it's really difficult for me, not just as a vegan, but just as a libertarian or however you want to weigh it to justify. I definitely try to. For me, veganism came through multiple things: health, the ethics as well, but also more recently realizing that as a vegan anarchist, that I don't really feel like I can truly say I'm not contributing to the violence in the world and adequately working to reduce violence when supporting this kind of things. And it is sort of difficult for me to, I don't know, it's just hard to say, yeah, well, all these monkeys or whatever are going to be put in cages, spend their life in there and have whatever done to them. I often try to put it this way: eventually there's going to be an alien species or some species that comes along that is able to dominate humanity the way that we have the rest of the species here, and they're going to have us up in labs testing things on us. They're going to have us in zoos, and I think at that point we'll probably understand what that feels like.
Go ahead.
I think if we're having a moral conversation about it, if this is about principles, then the difference between testing on animals and just killing them for food it's the same thing. It's a violation of another being. And humans have the choice to volunteer for that trial or not. Yep. If you're just taking these animals and testing on them, then you're absolutely violating their will every time because they don't have the option to say no. And I understand a lot of people definitely wouldn't go with a trial that has, there's no background. But a lot of people also go into trials where the background is extremely limited, knowing that it's probably highly toxic for them.
By the way, this trial, I'm not so sure.
I didn't hear anything you just said.
Yeah.
So I said in this crowd, I'm not so sure that the end of all pharma development would really be that bad a thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So I differ a little bit, and I really respect the answers over here. I want to say I have much love and respect for those answers, but I differ with them because I value human life, all things being equal, I value human life higher than I value non-human life. I think that's just the breaks. And so I think that we have to look at, as I did in my article, if you guys looked at it, the reason that we kill. I don't think we kill for indiscriminate reasons, but we kill other humans with justification in self-defense, right? I mean, there are reasons we kill other creatures that are totally justified. So I suppose we could break out the hypothetical a little bit and say, imagine humans dying by the millions and no adequate testing exists other than testing on animals. And if we can test on animals, we can, let's say we kill 50 animals, but we save humans by the millions. I'm going to say we test. I don't feel like I'm happy about that, but those are the choices we're presented with. So I think that bright line rules most of the time are bad rules, and I think that is in terms of the other species that can come here and sort of, they're superior to us and take on us and use us up in labs. If they can get that done, they will, and if they can't, then they won't. It's that simple. Might makes reality, and so I'm okay with the testing, the critical, life-saving testing on animals. What I'm not okay with is sort of convenience testing. Can we put the cosmetics on the dog and see if it burns his eyes? I think, to me, that's going too far. But then again, it's just my opinion.
Well, the good news is that if we start eating plants, we won't need to do a lot of this testing because many of these diseases will literally disappear.
Yep.
You can go to many parts of the world where they don't have heart disease, they don't have breast cancer, they don't even have a word for menopause because they don't have these conditions because of the way that people eat. So there's over 400,000 people that will die this year from heart disease in the United States alone. And that is because we're eating animal products. Again, what has cholesterol? Animal products. What causes heart disease? Cholesterol, animal products. So if we just stop that, we'll be saving millions and millions of lives just in doing that.
I think there's an ethical piece on animal testing, and the way we currently approach it, reading 300,000 manure monkeys captivity testing and treating them, there's a line of ethical, and this is where I get the fun. Is sure, a lot of us have pets. The way we treat those animals, we have a specific approach to that. And so I think a big pharma, the testing of animals is turned into, it's completely unethical. And there's got to be some sort of guidelines and ways of approaching it, especially within big pharma. And that's where I really differ. Marc, I'm interested in, yesterday you spoke about, getting together the freedom and peace movement. I think as vegans, when we look around this room, we're not doing a good job because the vast majority of people that are taking out vegans. So how do we bring together these movements? What is the strategy? Because we can, the vegan movement is gaining traction. It's pretty isolated from a lot of other vegan movements. And what are some strategies that you've seen to be effective to bring together these movements?
I couldn't hear him. I'm sorry.
Yes.
What are strategies?
This question was here.
There's like a...
There was an echo, and I didn't
He
quite
asked
get
what are the strategies to get
What are the
people
strategies to bring together the freedom movement and the peace movement?
and vegan movement?
Okay. How do we recruit vegans into libertarianism?
Oh, that's easy.
And vice versa.
I think that there are different reasons why people adopt sort of a vegan type position, and I'm not 100% vegan myself. It's a journey that I'm undertaking, and I think that whether somebody comes to this, when I say this movement, I'm talking about the vegan world now, whether somebody comes to that from health reasons, which might not get them completely to veganism. I mean, even T. Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study, which is, and I know Colin Campbell, he's a friend of mine, and I love that book, but even he says, I can't find any data to say that 100% veganism is any healthier than eating animal protein, so long as you keep that animal protein to 10% of your calories or less. So he doesn't even say a complete vegan as to the health reasons. But that can still get people pretty far into our movement based on nothing but the health question. Then there's the ethics question, which is completely stands alone, all by itself. I think libertarians are probably the most fertile area for that because libertarians are interested in the ethics question. I love to go to the animal rights people and say to them, yeah, I'm with you on we should be compassionate to the animals. We should initiate force against them. But let's talk about our other group of animals called humans. Why are we initiating force on them? Let's get them into the libertarian crowd as sort of a subset. Also, I think I'm very interested, and I'm so glad she presented it, the environmental case. I think this is a case that can be brought to libertarians as well. Libertarians aren't traditionally worried about the environment. It's just because it comes from suspicion of the government using this issue to manipulate people like they always do. But there are trespasses out in the world that we can deal with on an environmental level, that moving towards the vegan cause can stop the various trespasses of, you know, gases and land erosion and water problems and all that. I think that's also a fertile argument. So, you know, for me, oh, by the way, there's a fourth argument that I've been very impressed with out there as well, which is I ask people all the time when they tell me they're vegans, why? I just said, you come from ethics, health reasons, environment. I had one person say to me, I just like eating plants better than I like eating animals. I enjoy the taste. And as I've gone further and further into this, what started out as a, what the hell am I going to eat? Am I going to eat salads every day? Ugh, I hate salad and I love pork ribs. I went from there to, man, a real good, freshly prepared, creative vegan meal that makes you feel great when you eat as much of it as you want. Man, I enjoy that more than I ever enjoyed a ribeye steak, and I loved ribeye steak. So if we could communicate that case to people, that look, I know you're brainwashed right now into thinking you got to eat dead animal flesh and that you love it, but if you could get out of that and let your brain switch over to, wow, I really felt great after I took in that kale salad. It just made me feel good. I'm in a good mood. I got good energy. I'm feeling great. And all of a sudden, my brain is going to switch over to, I like that better than I like this. I think that's a perfectly sufficient argument as well. So I guess the long-winded answer to your question is I bring all those arguments to bear, and I go after everybody and everything. I'm a converting motherfucker. I want to talk to people and get them converted to freedom and peace and love if possible. So all of these arguments to me lead to the same place.
Well, I think there's only one person on this panel who's truly started a movement, and that's Dayna. So Dayna, what can you apply to unschooling the movement, to this movement from unschooling? Dayna.
I'm Dayna. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry.
You can be me. Go ahead, Nate. That's Lisa.
Oh.
That's Nathan's mom. I mean, taking into account that focusing on the needs of everybody in the equation, and everybody's needs matter, and finding ways to creatively meet those needs, that's what I pull into my focus of veganism, the needs of the animals. And my needs don't need to steamroll over theirs, because my needs are to be healthy and to be nourished, and the list of needs nutritionally and so forth, and I don't need to clash and not care about the needs of the animals to have my needs met. So yes, it takes more time and creativity at times. It initially, like when those new neuro associations come to play, it's amazing how you just don't even think about it anymore. I don't even think about it. There's like this major process, like when I first became vegan, like I would be so grossed out walking by. I was like a born-again vegan, kind of. I think we go through that process, but with everything that we're really passionate about. I'd like cry walking by the steak. Like literally, I'd be sobbing, like, don't look over. Because I saw slaughterhouse videos. And I mean, for me, it started as vanity, actually. It was like it started as vanity, and it kind of turned into sanity, and they say that's, I don't know who came up with that quote, but that stayed with me. Initially, it was like a health reason, and I was seeing amazing results. Not only was I losing weight, but I was what they call youngering. I was turning back the hands of time, and I couldn't believe it. Like, I probably took 5 years, 10 years off.
Yeah.
My physical, and not just the appearance, but inside. Like, I reformed whatever is going on inside my body. It's incredible. Like, your DNA changes in a way. And so when I saw those results, I was like, that's really cool. But then that wasn't what stayed with me. It was how I felt. And it made me more compassionate. It's almost like, because I was naturally compassionate and empathetic anyway, it kind of just made it go outward more and more and more. And that felt really good, like that expansion of compassion. So as far as comparing it to the unschooling movement, well, kind of coming at it from a different angle, my kids are the ones, my daughters, that encourage me to be vegan. I mean, I love the taste of meat and chicken and well, chicken's, I always think of beef as meat, dairy. And it's not like vegans hate the taste of animal products. There's times I walk out of Walmart and I smell that fried chicken, I'm like, that smells good, and I'm like, oh gosh, that shouldn't smell good. Like when is that gonna go away where that smells good to me? So it's just a choice, but it's not hard. It's not a big deal. There's so much food in the world, really. Like there's so many options. Like why on earth would you choose something so bad for you, so bad for the environment, so cruel in the way that it's, the animal agriculture is. It just seems kind of selfish to be like, no, I have millions of choices, but I want that. Like, I mean, there's so many better things for you and for the world. So for me, it just makes sense and it's easy at this point. So.
I think one thing, so with vegans to anarchy or the libertarian movement, it's really easy. You just say, why don't you apply that belief to humans, like you said. Super easy. Going the other way is a little bit trickier because people in the movement are often very intellectually based and they like to reason their way out of things. Personally, my approach is going to festivals, gatherings, conferences, and staying with communities, and I just cook them vegan food 3 meals a day for a week or two. And when I leave, and the people that decide to go back to eating meat, they generally feel like shit. And so I've gotten dozens of people over the last 2 years who I've talked to, a few months after I saw them, and they're like, I haven't eaten an animal product since the day after you left. I got a burger, felt like crap for 3 days, and I haven't gone back. And another approach is, what you're taking in. These animals are oppressed, they're tortured, there's this like slavery going on, and that vibration is held in the animal product. Like, you look into the work of Dr. Emoto, like this feeling of oppression and captivity is what you're taking into yourself. And that's why governments push animal products so heavily, because they can program you at the genetic level.
But you still have to kill it. But before you kill it, you have to pick it up and pet it and be very gentle with it so the adrenaline goes down in its body, and then you kill it. Because if you kill it when you immediately pick it up, it tastes like shit. Because you're getting all the adrenaline into meat. And as I thought about it, that's just really awful. Oh, sweet one, sweet.
Everybody's please, can we talk? You guys did this. You guys are right. I'll get too emotional.
Good question. There's a couple different angles. I'm just going to focus on one and let everybody else tackle it a different way. For me, I guess one point is at the end, you know, when you're saying, like, well, maybe they'll have a long life and everyone will have to take their life to the end of it. I just keep thinking, it reminds me so much of the state feeling like, well, they can give us a good life and then at the end they'll take our life and use it for whatever they find valuable. And I don't know, to me, you're still taking a life. So from the ethical, moral standpoint, I still would find it wrong. But also I think that as far as weighing the amount of space that, as Nathan said, factory farming, agricultural takes a lot more space. If we pushed towards this and continue this movement towards localization and building agorism and freedom cells, we're going to have more local community gardens, backyard gardens, and we won't need this only one area dedicated to growing food. You know, it's going to take a massive space. We would have just communal growing, and that alone could reduce the need for deforestation, for taking up huge plots of land. That's just the one part I'm focusing on.
Yeah, I'll actually continue it from there, because if you look at like permaculture and the permaculture ethics, right, are care for man, care for the world, and returning the abundance. So in permaculture, you don't look at like, okay, how do we get rid of the animals that are going to eat some of our crop? You just calculate in how much of your crop you're going to lose to animals. If birds are going to eat some apples, you know, you just plan on these 2 trees being dedicated to the birds. You know, and so there's this whole, we don't have to cut them off or cut them out in order to produce for ourselves. The most effective way to feed people is with food forests. Like you see at the Stand Center, just like 12 hours away in Belize, they've got a 50-acre food forest with half-acre plots all the way around it where people live. No one grows any food. The forest grows the food. The animals eat as much as they want. The humans eat as much as they want, and there's still extra. And there's also, you know, as far as land being taken for growing, there's the majority of agriculture now is for soy, corn, wheat to feed to animals. Yep. You know, it's not like it's just that we're planting all these things to feed people. There's more food, like more weight in food goes into a cow than can come out of that cow as food if you're eating meat.
I totally agree about the agricultural cows should be on pasture eating grass, goats should be out.
I think Lisa, didn't you want to?
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure I got one last question. We're almost out of time.
Just be pregnant.
Wow.
No, you
Give her the
There you go, Mike.
Just real quick, when I was younger, I remember the feed, you know, the starving children in Africa. I was like really upset about that, and recently it became clear to me that I try not to get emotional. These places are sending the only crop that they have to America to feed these cows, and everyone in the country is dying to feed fucking cows. Like, really? The food could be eaten by the people that are dying. Like,
Speak up.
okay, I'm gonna start crying. It's just crazy to me.
So I was right to keep from the microphone the first place out here.
I didn't hear what you said.
I saw I was right to keep you from the microphone in the first place.
Can't hear.
There needs to be a lot of discussion on this, so I appreciate your time now, short on time. I'd love to see your analysis. My first thing is more of a statement. Using the idea of consciousness, I want to caution you about that. The research shows all living life has a degree of consciousness. And I've seen biofeedback reports for plants. We know that plants have a degree of consciousness. And my argument there would be none of us as the people in the world have us to decide what conscious life should be or should not be taken. That being said, I personally wish to explore veganism for myself. I dabbled in it, been unsuccessful because I live in a remote part of Canada. We don't have big cities where it's supported. We don't see the movements. We see one person and maybe 5,000. The ratios are very skewed, rather, and also as So my question is,
It's a little hard.
That's your man right there.
my question really is, in short here, would be how can we bring awareness and how can we bring kind of the moral compass to more remote parts where there isn't the movements happening, there isn't the cities, but how do we get the research to get some direction where we can get people who live the traditional way or off the land? I guess it's just it's a bigger concept, and it's easy to say in a city where there's tons of food and lots of choices and you eat whatever you want, versus the people that primarily eat 40% of their diet because they have to. By the way, if you're having trouble eating because you live in Northern Canada, I got an easy solution to that. Move the fuck out.
It's cheaper to live here.
Okay, you raised several issues. One is to the issue of is the food available? Well, I'm betting that your grocery stores, there are a lot of potatoes, corn, cans of beans. You're set. You know, you can survive on starches. So if they don't have fresh tomatoes and fresh strawberries, that's okay. You really don't even need those. You can. There's a guy in Australia last year that ate nothing but potatoes for the entire year. He lost over 100 pounds. He also lost his very serious depression that he had. He has had fantastic blood work and great energy. There are plenty of people throughout the world that eat significantly starches. That's what they eat. So you can get a lot of calories, and you're also going to be healthier probably, and be very good. As to plants, my take on plants is we don't. Yes, there's some science that says that plants have a level of consciousness or awareness that something's happening to them when they're being plucked from the ground, but we don't know much about that really. What we do know is that there are billions of sentient, intelligent individuals that their lives are being stopped. They're living horrific lives and dying tortured deaths every day, every second of every day. And I think we should be working to eliminate that suffering now.
This thing's not an exact science, for sure. Let me be the first to say that I would eat nothing but animals if all that was available was animals. I mean, we're presuming that there are choices here, and there's some degree of choice here. But I got to tell you, I'm not gonna eat potatoes all year long either. So you have to make some choices. But when I hear this discussion, we get into the practical implications of sort of like your question. I don't really care too much about the practical implications as a libertarian. It's sort of like arguing legalization of marijuana, and I'm constantly confronted with, well, Mark, what if more people start smoking marijuana after we legalize? Like I got some goal to control other people. I always respond, I don't care what people do with their freedom. I mean, I may try to persuade them, but the issue is people get to make the choice for themselves. So in this context, my thoughts are, the issue here is, do we violate the non-aggression principle when we have lots of choices? And the reason we're eating the meat is because we simply prefer the taste of the dead animal flesh. And I'm saying, I think we might be violating the non-aggression principle. What the implications are of making the changeover is not really the issue. If we're libertarians, if we're men and women of peace, we need to act consistent with that. So let's start thinking about what it is that we put into our mouth that's consistent or inconsistent with that principle. That's really what matters to me as a libertarian.
I'm sorry, that's going to be the end.
Okay. One-word response, greenhouses. I mean, we have highly advanced farming techniques.
You said one word.
Okay, what?
Greenhouses. Like, we can grow any food anywhere in the world right now. Period.
All right.
And if we're going to be worried about plants and they're like having feelings and consciousness, then we clearly wouldn't eat meat then, because we already know that they do. So why are we stepping down again and arguing something that's not an argument?
And I feel bad about eating plants. I wish we didn't have to.